GT America, powered by AWS, is back at Road America for the 11th race of the 2024 season. The series has come 860 miles northwest from its last stop at VIR to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and another high-speed challenge around this 4-mile, 14-turn circuit. A mix of seasoned veterans and series newcomers are set to test themselves against each other and the track, and as you can see, Mother Nature, too, will have her part to play here today. Hello, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Out there amongst the raindrops is our own DJ Clark. He'll be reporting from the pit lane for us. Temperatures right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and for the first time all day, but for the third time in as many days, Road America finds itself in the throes of yet another rainstorm.
Yeah, it's coming down pretty heavy. We talked about the disruption of the practice and test days coming into this weekend. We had dry qualifying this morning that was led by Justin Rothberg, putting the SRO Motorsports car on the pole. But game changer right now. This rain shower has just happened about 5 minutes ago. Everyone switching to the wet weather Pirellis and see what the teams did in terms of maybe guesstimating that you might see some rain here. Do you go a little bit softer on the setup, change the dynamics of the car a little bit to assist the driver in these very challenging conditions?
Challenging conditions indeed, and to give us an update on the conditions as well as the storylines on the grid is DJ Clark. Hi, DJ.
Hey, Ryan. Well, you guys called it right. It is most certainly raining here. Rain jackets have come on. I'm thankfully beneath a little bit of cover right now. But the big story with that rain is everyone has made this switch over to the rain tires, including your two pole sitters of Justin Rothberg and Isaac Sherman. For both of these drivers, it's a carrying on of good form from the earlier in this year. They just want to keep on notching those results as much as possible and pad their championship lead before we get to the final round at Indianapolis.
Yeah, thanks, DJ. Go find a rain jacket or an umbrella or something. It looks like it's going to be coming down in a big way here for the next several minutes. Hopefully this doesn't last too long, but then again, maybe the teams are hoping we do see rain for the next hour or so and we can get this race in consistent conditions and not to have to think about making tire changes.
Yeah, I mean, 40-minute run, so I think the amount of rain that we're now seeing and kind of a deluge at the moment, I think even if we started right now, I don't see it drying out if it could stopped raining. So I think we're going to be staying on those wet weather tires. If it should dry out, then you're looking for the puddles, trying to make sure you keep them as cool as possible. But I think we're going to have consistent conditions for this race.
We've seen some rain over the course of the season. GT America certainly has experienced some of that. This track has been repaved recently, but Calvin, you've been asking around what kind of grip level can be found around this place with the relatively new track surface.
General consensus is pretty good. So last year when we came here, the track had been recently resurfaced. Didn't have a lot of grip in general. Certainly the racing line rubbered in and gave us some good racing there, but you ventured offline in the dry. It was a bit of an adventure to say the least, but talking to some drivers who have tested here recently or competed in wet weather conditions, they say it's got pretty good grip, so I don't think it's going to be super dicey. It should provide some good racing action here this afternoon.
And there was plenty of wet weather running available earlier in the weekend for teams that elected to take it. Now,
Well,
not many did.
Yeah, you forecast it didn't look like it's going to be a ton of rain the weekend. Are you risking the race car by being out there? But I was of a proponent, if it's raining, go out there. Get used to it. Identify what you can. Yeah, there's a risk factor, but these drivers can handle those conditions, and then you're so much better prepared when it comes race time if you should see what we're seeing right now on the racetrack.
Here is Mirko Schultes in the return of the Callaway Corvette. Good to have Mirko back. Seasoned veteran, of course, of this type of racing as well as prototype racing. He'll have plenty of laps in the rain on his CV. We also see the return this weekend of James Safronis, who's running a partial schedule for GMG. Great qualifying effort from James. He was up in the second spot after qualifying, and he'll be leaning on his experience as well, having raced here at Road America for the better part of 3 decades. Let's talk championship here, Calvin. It is tight coming into the weekend in SRO 3. Johnny O'Connell, Jason Daskalos separated by just 8 points.
Yeah, very tight between those two. Daskalos had the early championship lead in the season, but Justin Rothberg, the kid, as Johnny O'Connell calls him, he's on the charge right now, coming off a big win at VIR, has the pole here, and there's enough rounds in this championship, enough points still on the table that he could catch those two front runners by the season's end.
Should be fun in that run to the season finale at Indianapolis. 6 races still to run here this season, including these 2 right here at Road America. Man, this looks like a replay from yesterday or from Thursday when the rain just came pouring down. There's sections of the track that will flood, even the sections of this pit lane. You'll see a little river form right towards pit out, and that can make for even just leaving the pits to be a challenge.
Yeah, and the real key is, I mean, obviously making the adjustment, as DJ alluded to, everyone on the wet weather tires. Some teams may have elected to do some suspension changes that are quickly and available to them without getting something major like a spring package change. But the real key, I think, is visibility. You need those defoggers, you need the wiper working correctly, so hopefully all of the teams with the rain that we had this weekend at least ventured out to make sure all of those systems were working correctly. There's nothing worse than driving at these speeds around here when you can't see it. The mist kind of hangs in the air between the trees there, particularly down through the moraine sweep and on the run down into Canada Corner as well. You need everything working.
Well, as mentioned, Justin Rothberg qualified on pole this morning in dry conditions. He did so in relatively dominant fashion. It was a sizable gap between himself and James Safronis, his nearest pursuer. Same story in GT4, where Isaac Sherman scored yet another pole position. Let's take a look at how the field will line up for this race today, with Rothberg on pole, Safronis alongside, BMW and Audi on the front row. Then it's Kyle Washington, teammate to Safronis, and Jason Daskalos in the thick of that points battle will start in 4th position today. Johnny O'Connell has had a difficult weekend, some technical issues on their car. They've had very limited drive running. Well, that doesn't really matter so much today with all the rain that's coming down. And then the returning Mirko Schultes starts in 6th. Jason Bell starting in the 7th spot in the SRO 3 class next to Tim Savage, who's recovering from an accident in testing on Thursday. That car's ready to go. Don't expect Bryson Morris nor Elias Sabo to take the start today. They were using some of the GT America sessions for a warm-up for Fanatec GT. It's GT4 now, and Isaac Sherman, who starts on pole again. He's been the breakout performer of the season, but Kurt Swearingen's been keeping him honest as of late. Kurt starts in 2nd, Gray Newell in 3rd, next to Todd Perriott. Good qualifying effort for Todd in his Aston. Nick Shanny in the BMW and Farhan Siddiqui in the Audi GT4 starting in row number 8. And then to the back row of the grid, where Alan Grossberg is making his debut in the GT4 ranks. He campaigned a GT2 car in this series earlier in the season. He also has some time in a TCA Spec Mini earlier this year. So it's his 3rd different platform that he has raced in SRO America, and it'll be the McLaren Artura for him here today. We always talk, Calvin, about the importance of the formation laps to prep the car, take a look around the track, make sure nothing has changed from a sightline perspective from the last time you were on track, but that's extra important in conditions like these.
Yeah, try and get a good clean run into one of these brake zones, make sure that brake bias is adjusted. Typically what you do is kind of wind the brake bias to the rear. There's a lot of force goes through those braking front wheels, so these cars do have ABS as well, but you want to certainly not get into that ideally, so getting the brake bias adjusted will be key. And visibility. I mean, I'm sure for Justin Rothberg, he's thinking, you know, he's got the pole, he's got the track position, get out front. He's had the pace here this weekend in GT America, and just not have that mist and spray that you're going to fight if you're a little bit deeper in the pack.
Talked about the ABS. There's also traction control on these cars. What will you do with that in mind to dial them in for the rain?
Well, again, it depends how much grip you're getting from the racetrack. We're talking about some of the drivers who have competed here or had test time here in the rain have said it's pretty good, but you know, you've got several settings. Most of the systems have about 10 different settings. The more intrusive you make it, the more power you're taking away. So you don't want to just ramp it up there, because if you suddenly come out of the wetness and into a dry period, you want to be able to get full acceleration. But right now you see a lot of water down there. Look at that as you go through Canada Corner. That's right on the fine line here of whether it's drivable or not, to be honest with you.
I had the same thought. That looks awfully close to standing water down in turn 12, one of the lower areas on the track. Then it's an uphill climb through turn 13 into 14, and then a big uphill climb onto the front straightaway. The lights still are on the safety cars, so I think this one might start from behind the safety car conditions. Still seeing double yellows at the flag stand, so I believe that's what we're going to see. The clock will start 40 minutes, but we will start this at least one more lap here behind the safety car. Prudent choice, I think, given the torrential rain we're experiencing right now.
Well, they'll wait for feedback from the safety car driver and also the drivers in terms of what the teams are radioing back to race control as well. And you don't want to start this race if the conditions are undrivable. They'll lean on drivers like Johnny O'Connell, for example, have so much experience to whether this racetrack has enough grip. What is the visibility like? Is there just areas where you're just going to aquaplane with the deep water?
Did you ever have the chance to race here in the rain?
I don't think I have, actually, funnily enough. I raced here several times, but never in the rain. They talk about rain America. I got lucky, I guess. It always seemed to be nice weather when I was competing here.
I never had such luck in the limited amounts of running I did here in lower level racing. It always did seem to rain at one point or another over the course of the weekend. Adds to the challenge. I mean, we love this place because it is challenging, and this just ramps it up a notch or two.
Yeah, and typically we talk about what's called the rain line, where you're running off the dry racing line. When you're on the dry racing line, if it's an old surface, it's smooth, it doesn't have a lot of aggregate, it's got all of the oil from the race cars, the rubber down, so you'd run around the outside as opposed to the traditional racing line. But with this new surface that only went down a couple of years ago, not sure that'll be such a player in terms of being effective.
Clock continues to tick down as the race is officially underway, but has started behind the safety car for reasons that I think are self-evident as the field goes under the Sargento Bridge. Good crowd on hand despite the conditions. It's been this way all weekend long, but even with that, you can't dampen the enthusiasm of Road America race fans. Folks just love coming out to this place to watch race cars.
Yeah, I think I've said it before this weekend, but I first came here in 1985 as a competitor and loved the venue, loved the vibe of the little town of Elkhart Lake and you just like the summer camp feel, and then the racetrack itself gives you everything. 4 miles, super challenging, ton of elevation change, which we really don't talk a lot about, but it's about 170 feet as you plunge down into some of these break zones. But then long straightaways, big deep break zones, that's traditionally what provides great racing because you're going to see that down in this corner, turn 5, into Canada corner, up into turn 1 even, where you're not slowing the car quite as much, obviously, as a high-speed first turn, but nonetheless, wide track, lots of opportunity to coexist, and with these conditions, everyone's going to be searching for grip. Where is it most effective? Where does my car work the best? Squaring off the corners, getting your hand straight, getting the power down. Hopefully we will see some green flag action. It's a lot of standing water. I think they may stay out there a little bit longer even and get a better feel.
Well, when we talk about this place being a fan favorite, I learned recently that there are more custom Road America license plates sold than there are for the Milwaukee Brewers, the Milwaukee Bucks, even than the beloved Green Bay Packers. There are more Road America license plates out there, which speaks to just how popular this place is in the state of Wisconsin alone, but really all throughout the Midwest, if not the entire country. People make a point to come here and experience all that Road America has to offer, and it started back in the mid-1950s. Really, it started before that, before there was a Road America, with races through the country roads and even the city streets of the village of Elkhart Lake.
Yeah, and they continue to invest. Every year we show back up here, there's a new improvement, and it's not just for the races on the track with safety improvements, but certainly for the spectators, making it more accessible. Before, it was very difficult to get over to the backside of the circuit that we're going through here, down through the Kettle Bottoms and into Canada Corner. Now there's all these access roads that you can take a golf cart around and just enjoy the whole experience here at Road America. And concessions are top-notch. There's some fun stuff to eat here on the weekend, some good beverages. But it's just a fun experience. If you want to come here, if it's on your bucket list, you've got to make it happen.
All started back in September of 1955. That's when the first race was held here at Road America. It was a duel between Sherwood Johnson and a Briggs Cunningham entered D-Type Jag, and none other than the Kansas City Flash, Phil Hill, in a Ferrari Monza. That came down to a photo finish. Phil Hill took the victory and had an average speed in that race of just over 80 miles per hour. The following year, the first professional race was held, and I don't know how many know the trivia that the first professional race held here was actually a NASCAR race in 1956. It was a 2-day show. Day 1, Paul Goldsmith won in a Jaguar. That's right, Jag has a NASCAR top-level win on its resume. And in day number 2, Tim Flock in a Mercury won in the rain, fittingly enough, fending off some of the big names of that time period. A little bit of Road America trivia for you.
It's news to me, so good tidbit there.
I think that came up when Toyota came to the Cup Series and finally got a win. You know, how many other foreign manufacturers had won in NASCAR? And I think to the surprise of many, Jaguar was on the list. Don't really associate Jag with stock car racing, but you go back far enough, you can find just about anything.
Jason Daskalos, who's now running second in the championship standings, led for a majority of the first half of this season. He actually had a big off at VIR in the rain just a few weeks ago, and he had some kind of ABS issue with that Mercedes. Hopefully they got that all sorted out for these conditions today.
Had a great start to the year, to your point, did Daskalos. 3 wins in the first 4 races. He's only won once since then. In fact, only 3 podiums in the subsequent 6 races, but still comes in striking distance, as we saw on our points graphic a few moments ago, of Johnny O'Connell, and neither of them have looked like they were necessarily the strong suit here at Road America this weekend, at least through testing and practice. This is from Race Control. We've got some pit lane procedures under review. You can read the names or the numbers of the cars from our graphic there, and you have a time period in which you're allowed to work on cars, and that does include changing tires, and we have seen this in rainy conditions catch teams out in the past.
Yeah, Johnny O'Connell and Ski Autosport ran afoul of that with a victory, I believe it was, at Circuit of the Americas last year, and then post-race lost that win. So this situation will be analyzed, and we'll have to wait and see if anything is notified before we even get to racing here. But we talked about the elevation change. The problem with that is you get these rivers that are running across the circuit. I think a moment ago we were looking at a big one going through the kink, and that is such a high commitment corner. If you suddenly come through there and as the car's still loaded and you're still turning, and you come across that river, even though you got these probably P0 wets on board right now, that's going to be a big challenge for them to deal with, and certainly the drivers.
Definitely true, and again, Race Control will be in contact with all the different teams and the drivers, as well as the safety car driver, to get an update. That's the river I think you're talking about right there, Cal. And then turn in. Still needs to be dealt with. The rain has lessened, just looking out the window, and at least here on the front straightaway, don't see the raindrops to the same degree, at least not with the same density as I did when this race was scheduled to start. But it's worth noting, this is a big track, and it might be relatively dry here where we're situated, and it could be totally the opposite down in Canada Corner where the cars are going through right here. And further complicating issues is this area is covered by trees, so it tends to be the last to dry if the sun were to pop out from behind the clouds.
Just check the radar, and every app is different, of course, but mine's showing about 10-15 minutes of this rain continuing. But it is lightning. Not as in there's lightning, but it is less rain over the next 5 to 10 minutes. So they may just continue to circulate and just wait this out a little bit longer, make sure it's safe.
Well, it's frustrating for you, the viewer. I know it is for us as well, and especially for these drivers. So much goes into prepping these cars, building up through the course of the weekend for the races, and these are relatively short races at just 40 minutes each. Anytime you have a safety car, it cuts into the amount of time you have to go out and do what we're all here to do, which is race. But this is the prudent choice with standing water around the track at various locations. That said, it looks like the standing water is starting to dissipate, and the call has come in for the lights to go off on the safety car. And the plan at the moment is to start this race officially the next time around.
If I was Justin Rothberg right now, I'd be backing off a little bit from that safety car and just taking a little bit of a charge through a couple of the corners, just to give yourself that little feel for what you're going to be dealing with once you get back to green flag action.
I was about to ask you, Calvin, what do you do? Because you're going to be going into these corners in these conditions for the first time. How do you even have a sense for the kind of speed that it's appropriate to carry into the corner?
Well, if you've been out here this weekend, that would certainly help in the similar conditions, but that's where the experience comes in, and just feeling that grip, identifying, and then having the ability, if you just dance on that line where you're a little bit out of control almost, that you got the confidence and the car control certainly to deal with that. But if you're the leader, obviously you're the guinea pig, right? You're out there, you're trying to encounter these conditions first, and then the other drivers behind can maybe, if they're a few car lengths behind, can see a car twitch, adjust their speed accordingly, and maybe monitor how the car in front of you is going to deal with it. But every car is different, many different manufacturers in this field, and they'll all perform slightly differently, different setups even for identical cars. So it's up to the driver. These are the conditions where you really earn your money.
Historically, we've seen the Porsche, specifically the 911, really thrive in these kinds of conditions with the rear engine layout, the weight over the drive wheels, just giving you a little bit more stability as you try to put the power down and cope with the changing conditions. Even with this newer generation 911, can we expect to see them thrive?
Yeah, typically the Porsches remain strong, but I mean the cars are so heavily loaded with electronics and everything these days that a lot of that is compensated for. Even if you got a front engine car like the BMW we're looking at, it's going to lead this field to green. You got to feel that Sofronis will be in good shape in terms of his experience in these types of conditions. James, great to see him back first and foremost, but he seems to excel in whatever conditions they're thrown his way. Kyle Washington, we talk about him, how busy he is. I mean, coming off that great victory at the last round of our championships at VIR. This is his third consecutive weekend here at Road America, so I'm not sure during that time whether he's had much wet weather running. So, but certainly getting a lot of confidence as this season progresses, running with Tom Sargent, a rapid young co-driver that he has in Fanatec GT.
For sure, and they scored a win in Fanatec GT at VIR, so Kyle's going to be driving with a lot of confidence right now, and his team boss, James Sofronis. 30 years ago, 1994, he made his first ever professional race start at what was then known as the SCCA World Challenge, the Super Production class. It happened right here at Road America, so a very special anniversary for James Sofronis, who had saved up his entire life savings of $1,800 to put into making sure he was on the grid that day.
I think that would go far under the current budget.
Quickly, Calvin, as we're about to start this, these will be under restart rules, correct? Not the initial start rules.
Yeah, it should be single file here coming up the hill.
And that changes when you can pull out of line as well, coming to the green flag. On the initial start, you must remain in column until you cross the start-finish line. Not so here on what is the first green flag we've seen, so a restart of sorts as we do go racing at Road America. First race of the weekend for GT America, powered by AWS, out in front with clear vision out the windscreen. That's Justin Rothberg in the BMW. He's got the veteran James Sofronis hot on his heels. Then it's Daskalos, O'Connell, Schultes, and Bell into turn number one.
Everyone being circumspect there with their track exit position through turn one. Middle of the road there. Like they are trying to employ a little bit of a rain line. Curious to see if anyone sort of kind of stays on the dry line and how effective that may be.
Dropping back to the lead in the GT4 class. It's still Isaac Sherman in front in his Rotec racing machine. We do have drive-through penalties, though, being issued to the cars that were under investigation earlier for that pit lane procedure.
A couple of those are in our top three right now, so Sofronis and Washington going to have to serve that drive-through penalty. So with Justin Rothberg, they need to give him that information. Listen, don't fight James Sofronis right now. He's got to suffer a drive-through penalty. Just keep it nice and clean, feel the road, see what sort of grip it is. Again, there you see no one's really venturing out and using all of the road there on track out. Kind of more middle of the road versus traditional outside, inside, outside line through a corner.
Again, our understanding is that the infraction in question is working on the car beyond the prescribed time limit, and most likely that had to do with fitting the rain tires on these cars. Sofronis looks to go on the attack, even though he does have that penalty looming. This is the first time at speed through the kink. Rothberg really backs it down, taking it through nice and easy, and it's a smart choice.
Yeah, there's a lot of standing water through there, so you got to be very, very careful. Going through pit lane, the transition time is about 52 seconds. Obviously, the other cars have got to stay on track and cover that amount of ground. So there's probably about a 40-second loss, I would think, by coming down pit lane. We're trying to analyze that here with James Safronis when he makes this stop.
Limited
if he elects to do it on this first opportunity.
Right, and limited time to make up for it. Just 25 minutes left on the clock after the delayed green flag due to track conditions. Coming around to complete lap 1, will we see those front runners who have the penalties dive into the pit lane? Not at the first time of asking, at least. They stay out on track.
Well, that is, I mean, with these conditions, there's always the threat of a full course yellow, and then you can't serve the penalty under full course yellow. Here comes Johnny O on Dascalos. This is for P4. This has championship implications. O'Connell has the championship lead. Dascalos comes in just a handful of points behind.
Just 8 points behind. Every position crucial between these two. They've been nip and tuck all year long. O'Connell looked to the inside. Dascalos covered that off. And O'Connell simply has to settle back in. As they run, it would be a 6-point lead, so Dascalos would trim 2 points off of that margin that he entered. The deficit was 8.
That delta's going to get bigger once the 2 cars in front of Dascalos serve their penalty, because there's bigger gaps for second and third versus the positions they're in right now. For Johnny O, troublesome weekend. They lost the first dry session, the really only true dry session here yesterday morning with a clutch issue on the Audi, and consequently Johnny qualified a little bit further down than we anticipated, as they were just trying to get to grips with this Audi in dry conditions.
They might be happy to see the rain. It puts them less on the back foot relative to their competitors. Dascalos fighting with Washington here. Washington among those cars that owes the penalty, so Dascalos won't want to be too aggressive as he slots that Mercedes up the inside down into turn 8, and he makes the pass stick.
The car through, I see a lot of people really compromising their exit. I mean, I get it to a certain degree, but when you're tightening the radius so much through a corner, there's got to be some speed loss there.
This is the carousel. 270-degree corner. It feels like it goes on forever, but it's crucial, especially in the dry, as it leads to the kink. O'Connell up the inside of Washington. That's in the kink. You don't see that happen too much.
That is such a tricky situation there for Carl Washington to manage, because with the spray and everything, even with these rear view facing cameras and side view mirrors, tough to see exactly where Johnny O is going to be, so he managed that nicely, didn't panic. Now, to serve these penalties, they can only cross the stripe twice after that penalty has been announced. Otherwise, they'll have a further penalty. So for Safronis and Washington, they could stay out there 1 more lap and then serve it without being under a further penalty situation. But nonetheless, if it was me, I'd want to get it done and have the ability to fight back.
Correct, and then a full course yellow would bring you back to the field, whereas now a full course yellow would potentially put you on the back foot. Is that Washington making the drive in?
Yeah, I think it's Safronis at the top of the hill already into pit lane.
Yep, they're going to take their medicine now. This is painful, though. This is a long pit lane here at Road America.
Maybe that was a strategy call. Whilst you're up front, you got relatively clean air. Try and gap the field a little bit more so you don't drop as deep into the pack once you come back out.
Rothberg doing a great job given his relative lack of experience in the rain. He just turned in the fastest lap of the race. Here's Isaac Sherman, the leader in GT4, and he has pulled away of now Gray Newell, who runs in second. Swearingen has dropped well down the order. In fact, he ran a lap some 17 seconds, even more than that, off of Sherman's pace, so there might be a story to tell there at some point. That's cost him a lot of track position and promoted this car into P2.
Gray Newell comes into this championship round, 3rd in points. Significant number back, but nonetheless he's going to continue to fight. Heart of Racing, what a wild program they have with so many entries across multiple championships on the global scale, running in World Endurance Championship. They're now starting to test their new hypercar, excuse me, it's an LMH car. It'll run in the hypercar class over in WEC and will compete here on North American soil as well. Roman DeAngelis, who shares a similar Aston Martin with Newell in Pirelli GT4 later this afternoon. He got to run that car at Silverstone last weekend. Certainly exciting times for that whole program.
Yeah, really exciting stuff on the horizon for Heart of Racing. Here is the fight, though, between the two championship protagonists. Let's get more on Johnny O'Connell's story now with DJ.
Well, Ryan, I just had a chance to talk to the Ski Autosports team, and I said, Johnny looks like he's absolutely taken to this. We know he loves the rain. They all lit up like a Christmas tree and said, yeah, this is what Johnny loves to do. So he's loving these conditions right now.
Justin Rothberg with a bit of a moment there in Canada corner. Luckily for him, he's got a big lead in hand, so it won't cost him any track position. He still continues to lead, but maybe not surprising. That's where we saw so much water before the race got underway.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he got the ABS down into Canada corner, but he ran very wide, then a little twitch as he accelerated up toward Billy Mitchell. Let's take a look at this and see how this one evolved here with Justin now with the handy lead with the two cars that were chasing him. Look at him, middle of the road, just really deep on the brakes, ABS activated. Has enough room there with the access road, and then as he accelerates up the hill, now Jason Bell has gone off. I think that's exiting turn 14.
Sure is.
He had a great run at VIR in the wet conditions, and he was pretty bullish. Saw him actually came into Milwaukee on the same plane the other day, and he was pretty pumped up for this week's activities.
He was 5th at the time of the spin. Ooh, he did make some contact there with the tire barrier, but all things considered, that car actually seemed to get away with that without too much damage.
So we just kind of looped under acceleration coming off of turn 14.
Lead has come down
Big
significantly.
Time.
It was just under 3 seconds at the stripe, and Daskalos just took another second and change out of Rothberg in the first sector alone.
Yeah, the gap once Sofronis had pitted, I think it was like 5.5 seconds that Rothberg had over Daskalos at that stage of the game. So there's last couple of laps, that gap has been halved and coming down quickly. Look at Mirko in the backdrop.
Yeah, he just had the fastest lap of the race. This is the car that's on the move right now, and that's all the more impressive when you consider this is probably the oldest car out there. If we're talking about the sophisticated traction control and ABS on these modern GT3 cars, this is lagging behind by, a decade or so.
Got a pretty sophisticated right foot, though.
He does, and a lot of experience driving Chevy-powered products over the course of his career, the native of Germany. Running in 4th at the moment, chasing down Johnny O'Connell. Here's the leader Rothberg, then Daskalos, O'Connell, and here's Schultes. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the run into Canada corner.
So Rothberg's last lap was not a great one. It was about 1.5 seconds off of his personal best, so he had a few moments. I think he's got to settle back in, but we've seen him so often this year, just despite his relative lack of experience at this level, Ryan, just really perform well under these pressure situations. But this is a different dynamic. Feeling the heat from a couple of the championship contenders, Rothberg knows if he's got a shot at this title still, he's got to gap Daskalos and O'Connell every single race this year.
He won from pole in the first race at VIR. That was a big moment for Justin Rothberg, who comes in with some pedigree. He did win a Ferrari Challenge Championship a year ago, making the step into multi-manufacturer GT racing, though, this year. And he has been a quick study, fighting with the likes of Daskalos and O'Connell over the course of the season. In fact, he's been on the podium now in 3 of the last 4 races and 4 of the last 6.
Well, he kind of got regrouped here a little bit. He just set a last lap was about a 10th off of his best, but problem is Daskalos is about 1.5 seconds quicker right now.
Definitely, but Daskalos now has a windshield full of spray coming off of that BMW, which he wasn't dealing with to the same degree. Rothberg's been enjoying the fruits of being out in front since he started on pole. He's not had to drive through the spray to this point in the race. His windscreen's gonna look the best of anybody at this point.
I hate to say it, but you can see that the grip level is pretty good. Various lines are being employed, and the odd little moment, little slide, but looks like the grip is pretty good. See Daskalos there using a little bit more radius through turn 7. Rothberg is liking that coming out in the middle of the road.
Jason's picking up the pace. Not a surprise. He loves street course racing where the margins are super thin. This is kind of a similar mindset, the way you have to attack a wet racetrack. He's not afraid to let it hang out, and it's been to his benefit over the course of the year. Remarkable year for Daskalos.
Yeah, and he certainly understands this championship situation. He's come up on some traffic here through the high-speed king, but if he can get in front of Justin Rothberg and Johnny O that sits there in third, that would give him the championship lead tonight.
The big points are paid for the win, that's for sure. 25, then it's a drop off to 18 for second place. If you're looking to swing the championship, getting the win is, of course, the best way to do it. Let's get more on the story with DJ Clark. Hey, DJ.
Hey, Ryan, I just had a chance to talk to Turner Motorsports about Justin Rothberg, and they said they're really coaching him on through each and every lap because these conditions are changing lap by lap. The rain keeps coming harder and then softer. In contrast to that, Jason Daskalos, they're letting Jason drive. He is loving this, but he is driving like a chameleon with one eye on the championship behind him and one eye on that race win ahead of him with Justin Rothberg.
The two are linked, as we talked about. Now they're going to have some traffic to contend with the GT4 cars. They already made their way past Grossberg. Looks like Siddiqui will be up next for them to handle. Rothberg just answered the bell, though. He turned in his best lap of the race at a 2:31 flat. It was actually quicker than Daskalos the last time by.
Yeah, he was. That was significant. And as we said, he seems to handle these situations, doesn't get fazed by it, doesn't panic. Daskalos is keeping him close here. Rothberg may have lost a little bit of time there, encountering that traffic through turn 3. Johnny O's dropped back a little bit. Seems like once they get into these more consistent conditions that maybe the Audi doesn't quite have the pace of this Mercedes.
It was interesting, though, in DJ's reports about the way the teams approach these two drivers, one who is in his first season of GT3 racing and the other who's been a part of this for a long, long time, has roots all the way back into the World Challenge days.
Yeah, and he's got a great mentor in Robbie Fowler. Oh, he's in deep there. Rothberg was in deep. Did he keep it together? He's a little bit wide. And then if you got more steering input coming off the corner, you saw the little twitch there as he tried to get back to power. But yeah, getting back to Rothberg's situation, so much experience with Will Turner there, Don Salami, you got Jay O'Connell engineering that car, some top-notch quality people, so much experience, and then Robbie Foley, his co-driver in Fanatec GT, will be on the radio just walking him through these various scenarios.
Had the chance to analyze these two over the last few laps. Where do you think Daskalos has the edge? Where is Rothberg the stronger one?
Well, I think they're pretty evenly matched. Seems like Rothberg, when he keeps a clean lap together, he's got the pace to maintain the lead, but he's just making these little errors in the brake zones. I'm not sure if he's just getting into the ABS when he suddenly chases it in a little bit deeper and then washes out wide, but then he's chasing the throttle coming off, little twitches coming off the corner, but again, he's got the track position, he's got the clean air, the best visibility, not that it's great even for him. BMW's strong down the straightaways here, which you got 3 big ones off, so Mercedes typically struggles a little bit in comparison to a BMW in this type of configuration of a race circuit, but brake zones and everything else the Merc does so well.
Nearly identical lap times between the top two. Daskalos lets it swing really wide there in turn 1 this time, but on that last lap, they were separated by just 35 thousandths of a second. Absolutely nothing between the BMW and the Mercedes. O'Connell just hasn't quite been able to match the pace of these top two, but he still sits solidly in 3rd position at the moment.
DJ talked about the rain. There must be certain areas. It's hard to really read from the visuals we're getting here on screen. But I'd say with the inconsistency of the lap time, they are encountering more rain on certain laps, and that obviously compromises your speed a little bit. Mirko Schultes set the fastest lap of the race. That was back on lap 6 of this motor race. Now on lap 10.
Sofronis was the fastest driver on track the last time by. He just did a 2:30.8. That's 7/10 off of Schultes' race best lap. Been talking about the battle for the lead. How about the battle for third and fourth? Johnny O'Connell has it in the Ski Autosports Audi, and Mirko Schultes is looking to take it away in his Callaway Corvette.
Funny that Mirko seems to only want to race GM products, and Johnny O'Connell was a long-time GM driver.
I know. So many years with Corvette racing, with Cadillac racing. It's to be strange for him to race against a Corvette, I suspect.
You talked about that penalty for Sofronis with that drive-through. He's now sitting in 5th. As you said, laid down a very fast lap, but he's still 36 seconds back of Mirko Schultes. That's 40 plus back of the leader, so that's kind of the loss that he's suffered by coming down pit lane for that infraction.
And that was a devastating penalty for sure. And I was wondering about Swearingen dropping down the order. Was he one of those that also had to serve a penalty? Yeah, he was. So that helps to answer that question, why he dropped down from 2nd. He's actually been doing a nice job to come back through the field. He's now sitting 3rd, but has some work to do to get to Gray Newell, who is some 17 seconds up the road for 2nd in the GT4 class. Daskalos just turned in the race's new best lap, but Rothberg was only marginally slower. These two just trading body blows here with under 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, and getting back to that GT4 battle here is Swearingen. He's got the fastest lap here. He's about 8/10 quicker than Isaac Sherman, so he is absolutely flying after, again, one of the drivers had to serve that drive-through.
And in GT America, fastest lap isn't just for bragging rights. In race 1, it sets the grid for race 2, so we're looking at our provisional pole sitter for tomorrow's race in GT4. If you're Rotec Racing, do you tell Isaac Sherman that when he's got such a healthy lead, or do you let him just do his thing?
I think you just do your thing. I think it's important, but there's so many overtaking opportunities here at Road America. He's got a cut down tire.
Wow, this is the race leader in GT4. This is the championship leader as well. If this just happened, it was relatively good timing because he only has a couple of more corners to go to limp back to the pit lane, but that left rear is down, and that's set to promote Gray Newell into the lead of the race in GT4.
Yeah, and this is going to cost him a minute at least with the penalty loss coming down pit lane, and then probably looking about a 10-15 second wheel change here as well.
This becomes your race leader in the GT4 class. Gray Newell's been on the podium a host of times this year, but he's looking for the first win, and now he's just 8 minutes away.
Looking good, but up front, Rothberg is feeling the heat from Daskalos. This is as close as it's really been.
Jason closing in. How aggressive does he want to be? He's in front of his championship rival right now, but there's 7 points in taking that position away.
Yeah, and with it, the championship lead. Doesn't just win the race, it also grabbed the championship lead tonight. Still a long way to go, 5 rounds in this championship after the checkered flag this afternoon.
Such a steady performance, though, from Rothberg, as we've seen all year, belying his lack of experience. The Rotec Racing team, hate to see this. It had been a master class from Isaac Sherman. They're going to need to change that left rear, and they go to work doing exactly that.
Seemed like they weren't totally sure that it was a cut down tire. He said something's amiss, and they kind of been seeing our monitors to know that that left rear was down. Didn't lose too much. By the time the cut down tire and wheel were off, the other mechanic had got that other wheel ready to go. So pretty nifty stop there.
Trying to staunch the bleeding. In the meantime, Rothberg under tons of pressure now. Daskalos has totally closed in and is looking threatening. He knows time is running out if he's going to make a bid for the race lead and the championship lead all in the same fell swoop.
Down the moraine sweep. This is turn 5. They're now coming up to the approach in the brake zone. See the Mercedes drops about a car length or so down these long straightaways compared to the BMW. And that helps Justin Rothberg not have to get so defensive and compromise his line into these corners.
Both of these drivers turned in their best first sector this time through. They're both pushing hard. Rothberg in the BMW, Daskalos in the Mercedes. Daskalos is close. This is a potential passing opportunity at the foot of the hill. He takes a peek to the inside, filling up the mirrors of the BMW driver.
Yeah, he's trying to feel it out. Also got to feel what the grip is like when you move offline, where you haven't really been running.
Through the carousel now, that's where this Mercedes platform has perennially been so strong. And the dry, it looks like it carries over to wet conditions too. Dascalos stalking the race leader here, heading towards the kink with 5.5 minutes left on the clock. These two have separated themselves from third place Johnny O'Connell by about 5.5 seconds. O'Connell in a battle of his own with Mirko Schultes right now for third and fourth. Here we go. It is Rothberg into Canada corner with Dascalos right behind.
As these two fight out at the front, you'd think they might have the fastest lap, as James Safronis is absolutely flying. So we'll look at the fast lap here set so far today. Safronis in the mid-27s.
But still 31 seconds behind the next car for position in the class. That has to be frustrating for James, who had to serve the drive-through penalty, in case you're just joining us, along with several others for work done to the race cars in past the permitted time before the start of the race.
Definitely getting more of a dry line, as you can see them come up this front stretch. And the good news for Dascalos, if he gets close, I mean, sometimes when you make a late move down to the inside, you're in the gray, you don't have the rubber down. But in these wet conditions, sometimes the grip may be even better than your competitor who's staying on that racing line. So if Jason does brave it out down the inside, he may find the grip that he needs.
Lets it run wide through one again. We've seen that from Jason a couple of times. It's a much more conservative approach from Rothberg. Dascalos was fractionally quicker the last time by, a 29.3 compared to a 29.4. As the track continues to dry out, it's getting quicker and quicker. Rothberg twitches under braking. That allows Dascalos to close in.
But again, he just has that extra car length as by the time they get to these brake zones, which is making it too much for Dascalos to really think about making an attack down to the inside.
That was a look at the CRP racing team. That's Dascalos' team, headed up by Nick Short. Jason continues to pile the pressure onto Rothberg, who just turned in the best overall first sector of the race. Here comes Dascalos again, a little closer than last time when he tried that move, but still not close enough.
Yeah, I think Rothberg definitely compromised his speed through turn 7. He's been super conservative with his exit coming out in the middle of the road. Dascalos is venturing out there a little bit, and he seems to be closer into that brake zone because of that.
We mentioned that wide arc through turn 1 for Dascalos. He was just given a warning by race control for exceeding track limits there. He'll have to keep that in the back of his mind. Just a couple of more laps to go here at Road America. Rothberg continues to lead from pole position.
O'Connell's got the hammer down a little bit. He suddenly found the sweet spot with that Audi as these conditions have started to dry out a little bit. We talk about Safronis being in the 227s. Well, Johnny O's in the 228 range as the leaders are running 229s, and that gap is being diminished. You can see him there in the backdrop.
Yeah, if these two get side by side, don't discount Johnny Red, Johnny O'Connell lurking in the background. We expect the white flag this time by for race leader Justin Rothberg. One more time, 4 miles, 14 turns around Road America. He's got to keep it on the black stuff, and he's got to keep Jason Dascalos behind him.
See, that line is ever drying. Here comes Johnny O flashing across the line. Gap is now 3.2 between Johnny O'Connell and Dascalos. I think that's going to be too much for Johnny O to make up in this last lap of this race.
Becomes a duel between these two. Rothberg, the pole sitter, looking for his second win of the season. Dascalos trying to take the lead, take the win, and with it, the points lead. A look at race vision powered by AWS, where it's showing the strength of the BMW there in the first sector, but sectors 2 and 3 are the Audis. Or he's the Audi, I should say, of O'Connell, or perhaps it's of Safronis. Actually, both of them sharing. Yeah,
Safronis in Sector 2, Johnny O.S. Sector 3 there. As you look at the graphic, his Gray Newell Swearingen has been on the march, and he is catching our GT4 leader.
Yeah, he was 4 seconds quicker the last time by. Gray's going to need to put the hammer down for a few more corners if he's going to hang on for his first win of the season. 1 minute to go, still a lot to play out here at Road America. Rothberg and Dascalos still fighting for the top spot overall, but it's Newell and Swearingen with over a lap still to go for the GT4 leaders. They have a lot to sort out between themselves still.
Yeah, and I thought that was turn 8 was going to be where Rothberg was vulnerable, but he kept it together there, capped the gap there. But Daskalo was trying to really get close here through this high-speed section, through the carousel, the run down to the King. Does he get extra brave here through the creek and just send it?
When we talk about the fact that Daskalos is fighting for a championship, don't forget Rothberg. He's only 32 points out. This win would be huge for him, too, to vault himself into a three-way title battle with 5 races to go in the season. Last time through Canada Quarter, Rothberg continues to hang on, both of them twitching as they try to put the power down.
Yeah, fast hands needed there. You're trying to put the power down, you're turning and accelerating at the same time. Does Daskalo send it into turn 14?
Rothberg covers it off, but he leaves the door just open a crack. Here comes the Mercedes looking to the inside. Who got the power down better out of 14? The final run up the hill to the checkered flag, and Justin Rothberg comes up the hill. He'll see the checkered flag first. Justin Rothberg wins for the second time this season. Jason Daskalos inches closer in the points, and Johnny O'Connell completes the podium in third. Meanwhile, battle for the lead in GT4. Here's Newell on the inside, Swearingen on the outside. The two nearly come together. Into turn number 5 with Newell still holding the lead. They both go off at the exit.
Unbelievable stuff there. Newell really outbraved, but Swearingen's coming back at him. On the run up to turn 6, he gets to the inside.
Thrust, parry, riposte. Like a couple of fencers dueling, and it's Swearingen that lands the strike. He comes through on Gray Newell to take the lead on the final lap.
Wow, that lap before he cut 3.5 seconds off that lead that Gray Newell had. Newell's fighting hard here in these brake zones. That Porsche is really hooked up.
Swearingen broke through for his first win of the season in the second race at Circuit of the Americas. He won again in race 1 at VIR. He's not finished worse than second since the Long Beach Grand Prix back in April. And look at the advantage he's got in these conditions. Race Vision powered by AWS. GT4 fastest lap belongs to Swearingen, and by a wide margin.
Yeah, and for Sherman with that cut down tire, he's now in P6 because it's a huge points day for Swearingen here.
Certainly is. He came in 63 points out, but this will take a chunk of that away with 5 races still to run. Rest of the top 5 in SRO 3 are settled. Schultes and Safronis, who reset the fastest lap of the race on the final lap at a 2:25.6. Meanwhile, this is a battle that's still underway. This is for third with Shanny fighting with Perriott. We'll check in on that in just a moment, but first, we take a peek at the front of GT4, where up the hill comes Swearingen looking for the checkered flag, and for the third time this season, and the third time in the last 5 races, it's Kurt Swearingen who takes the win in GT America's GT4 class. Gray Newell, another podium finish. He comes home second, but who will join them on the podium? It's the Aston of Perriott, it's the BMW of Shanny, and it's a drag race to the finish. Perriott leaves a lane up the inside for Shanny, but the Aston's got the ponies. To the top of the hill they come, and Todd Perriott will hang on to take home a hard-earned podium finish.
Yeah, it was a great little battle there. Looked like Shanny was going to do the crossover there coming out of turn 14, but Perriott immediately defended that. All nice and clean, but that was tight. Great race.
First podium of the season for Todd. It might be the first of his career. That was an excellent wet weather race. We started under the safety car, but we went effectively 25 minutes caution-free.
Incredible stuff. And again, Justin Rothberg just shows great poise and just doesn't get ruffled in these situations. Big win. Keeps himself very much in the championship picture. Daskalo's closes in to O'Connell a little bit. Johnny O had pace at the end, not enough time. And the fast man was James Safronis, but that drive-through penalty maybe cost him the victory here this afternoon.
I think it might have. If anyone's going to be doing a rain dance overnight, I think it might be James Safronis based on that wet weather pace we saw here today. Justin Rothberg, though, gets it done. Folks, keep an eye on this young man. First season of GT3 racing, and he has earned the praise of the likes of Johnny O'Connell throughout the course of this season. That might have been his best drive to date, fending off all kinds of challenges from Jason Daskalos through 25 minutes of green flag racing. GT4 winner Kurt Swearingen, what a drive he had to come through the field and take the lead on the final lap from Gray Newell. Todd Perriott completes the podium in the 3rd spot. Let's hear from our race winners, starting with Justin Rothberg.
Justin Rothberg, an absolutely stellar drive, keeping it together through the wet and holding off an attack from Jason Daskalos. That's how you get it done.
Yeah, that was a really tough race. The braking zones and grip were changing every single lap, so you couldn't really have a memory bank. I was kind of just the test dummy going into every corner, but kept it together and kept it on the track, so I'm happy.
Well, in terms of keeping it together like that, as you said, I mean, what are you having to do? How were you able to read the track as you were? We had a chance to talk to your team, and they said it was just every lap something different.
Yeah, every lap was changing. Where you could break one lap would change the next lap, so it was really just trying to play it as safe as I could while going as fast as I could, and it worked. Daskalos was on me the whole time, but thankfully we got through it.
You got through it, got the win, and now it's in championship conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big result for Rothberg. All in all, a good day for Daskalos, too, as he did chop into that deficit. He and O'Connell effectively neck and neck, as you could see. It was an 8-point lead. It's down to 5, but Rothberg is right there lurking. Only 22 points back now.
Yeah, and Johnny O told me yesterday, look out for the kid, Justin Rothberg. He's the real deal. He said he's fast here this weekend. My championship lead is under threat.
Back at Sebring, when O'Connell and Rothberg had another one of their great duels. Remember post-race saying, Johnny O'Connell saying that he's got a bright future, talking about Rothberg, and I think Johnny knows of which he speaks. We've seen that on display over the course of the season here so far. So it looks like we might be in store for a 3-way title fight in SRO 3. To DJ.
Kurt Swearingen, a wet weather masterclass. They're able to pull it out and put yourself back into this championship conversation. This is a good one.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It was good. That's the wrong hat.
Quick little hat change there. He's got the right one on.
So, no, it was fun. We liked the weather. We liked the rain. The car's good in the rain, and we were decent in the rain. So it was a good day.
All right. Well, Kurt Swearingen, congratulations, my friend. Another win.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is a very happy Kurt Swearingen, hard-earned victory. He's on a wonderful run of form at the moment. I think we've got a chance now to look at how the points stack up in the GT4 class. Leaving Road America as the sun starts to come out right at the end of this session today. Sherman still leads, but did take a bit of a hit. Swearingen with the big victory here today to climb that little bit closer, and Gray Newell solidifying his 3rd position in the points. That's it for race number 1 here at Road America.